Hi everybody, this is Darlene from darlenestamps.stampinup.net. I'm so glad that you found me today. I've been thinking about the challenges that companies have when putting together catalogs for their products. And of course, the purpose of the catalog is to highlight their products and really make you want to try them. But sometimes some products just really don't lend themselves to being interesting in a photo. And I wanted to talk about one of those products today that is in our Stampin' Up! Catalog. This product is in the annual catalog, and it is our Stampin' Up! Vellum cardstock. This is the way it comes packaged. It's 20 sheets in a pack. Pretty nondescript, kind of boring, if you will, and doesn't really generate a lot of excitement on wanting to try it. But today I hope to change that a little bit. I hope to change how you would look at our vellum cardstock and to highlight a technique that you can do with it. When you take it out of the package, this is what it's like. It's translucent. You can see it's kind of foggy, if you will, but you can still see my fingers through it. It's a nice weight. And it comes in 8.5 by 11. Today we're going to do a technique that is going to use two other products from the catalog. One is our Stampin' Blends. These are our alcohol markers. And the other product is an embossing folder. Now Stampin' Up! Has many embossing folders. The one I picked today was Leaf Fall. I'm going to do some fall themed projects for you today. So let's get started. Here is my piece of vellum. I know it's hard to see, but it is there. And I'm going to use my blends. Now, when you're using blends on vellum, the vellum is going to mute the color somewhat. And so I would strongly suggest that you use the dark shades. When you buy Stampin' Blends, this is Cajun Craze. When you buy a Cajun Craze set of blends, you get two. You get a light and a dark. For this project, I would suggest always using your dark shades. You're going to be a little more successful with the look of the ink. I'm going to use Cajun Craze, Old Olive, Daffodil Delight, and Pumpkin Pie. Again, these are all dark, and they'll show up really well. Now, the first part of this technique involves no artistic talent at all, which is right up my alley because I've shared before, I am not an artist. And what we're going to do is we're going to cover this vellum with a fall palette of blends. And the way we're going to do it, super easy. We're going to use the brush tip, the wider tip. Take off your cap. And I like to use the side for this technique so that I don't wreck the point. And I'm literally just going to lay down blotches of color. Literally scribbling, if you will. That was my Cajun Craze. Let me go to my Daffodil Delight here. And again, I'm just kind of making, I don't know, maybe you'd call it a mosaic kind of a look or a tie-dye kind of a look. My Old Olive. And I'm even overlapping a little bit, you can see. And then my Cajun Craze. Now, Cajun Craze is, Cajun Craze. Okay. Might extend this Daffodil Delight here a little bit. You don't have to fill all of it in. I mean, you can. It's really up to you. As you try this technique, I hope you will, you'll kind of find what you like, what works well for you. Let me go back to my Pumpkin Pie. I think that's good. I think I'm going to stop. I don't want to overdo it. Okay, so now I have laid down my color. There you go. Okay? Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to make this ink move. And the way we're going to do that is by using isopropyl alcohol. Now, this particular part of the project is important to follow this direction, and that is it has to be 91% or higher. On Amazon, you can get up to 100% isopropyl alcohol, but it has to be at least 91. The more common alcohol that you'll find in Walmart and drugstores is the 70%. That will not move the ink, okay? So it has to be 91% or higher. And what I've done with my alcohol is I've just put some in a mug here, nothing special. And I have a brush, a paintbrush. It can be a water paint or it can be a paintbrush, nothing special. I do like a little broader tip for this technique, but it's not necessary. Now what we're going to do is we're going to apply the alcohol to the ink that we just put on the vellum. And literally, I'm doing a tapping motion. Okay? And you'll see as the alcohol soaks into the ink, do you see it starting to move? I'm not doing that. The alcohol is doing that. Now what you'd want to avoid is doing brush strokes like this, because then you're going to blend all of the inks into each other, and depending on your palette you might wind up with one color, or depending again what you're using, you may wind up with brown. You may wind up with mud. I'm not overthinking this at all. I'm just dabbing that on there. It kind of reminds me of tie-dye a little bit, if you came from that era. And you can also make the ink move if you want. You see it? I just love that when it does that. Okay, but this is it. I'm not going to do anything else with it. And that I'll put aside to dry. Okay? All right. And here we have a piece that I did before. Okay, you can see that this side is somewhat brighter. This is the side that I put the ink on. And this is the side, the opposite side. And you can see that it's muted, right? It definitely mutes the colors. Okay, now the next step is to use our embossing folder. And you can use, again, whatever embossing folder you want. Because of my fall theme here, I'm doing Leaf Fall, which is from our July-December catalog. And this is a very large folder, so you can move your paper around. You know, this is a 3 3/4 by 5 piece of vellum. You can move it wherever you want. Really makes no difference. Okay, so you're going to run that through your machine, whatever you have, just like this. And then what comes out is this. It's so fascinating to see what happens to the vellum under the pressure of the embossing folder. You can see that where the pressure from the embossing folder is, it's actually making that vellum look whitish. But you still do have that muted color underneath. Okay? So right now, I'm thinking you're not real impressed because the colors are rather dull. But now I want to show you the next step. Now we want to adhere the vellum to a background color. You can choose colors from your palette. We use Daffodil Delight. So here's my Daffodil Delight cardstock. You can adhere it on there, and you can see that it really accentuates the yellow. And again, there's no right or wrong to this technique. There's really personal choice. So it's a little bit of playing. Okay, that's the Daffodil Delight. Here we have the Old Olive. Totally different look, right? Very muted, much darker. Okay. My favorite is white. And the reason I like white is because I think it just brightens everything. Really enhances the colors, if you will. And so that's going to be my matte color, is going to be the white. So our next item on the agenda is to attach the vellum to the cardstock. Attaching vellum can be tricky. If you would use a glue runner around here and maybe some in the middle, when you looked at it, you would see the lines of that glue runner through the vellum. It's not very forgiving. If you used glue dots or double-sided tape, you would see all of the shapes of those products. So the way that I like to attach vellum like this to our cardstock is by using our liquid glue. And here's how I do it. In a previous YouTube, I talked about our silicone craft mat. This is in the Stampin' Up! Annual catalog. It is silicone, nothing sticks to it. You could actually put hot glue right on here and then just really wipe it off. So we're going to use this as a base to glue on. That's going to be here. I'm going to use our Tombow liquid glue. And I'm going to use a wedge of a sponge. Now you can use something else if you want. I find the sponge works really well for this. And so I have little wedges like this around. Okay. We're going to actually put some glue onto the craft mat. I may need more. And then I'm going to, I want to put it on the back, because this is the way I want it to look on the card. So I'm going to put it on the back. And what I'm going to do with my sponge, you can see I have it, I'm going to stroke it on, if you will, and I'm going to need more glue. You want to do an adequate coating, but not a super, super thick coating. Okay? And you want to make sure that you get the edges, because you want that to stick down. You'll notice I'm gluing on my craft mat so I don't get it all over my cardstock. And again, stroking, actually painting, if you will. It looks like I'm painting. Okay, that's it. Yes, everything's covered. Okay, what I would do now with that sponge, I have a cup of soapy water off camera, and I'm going to put that sponge right in there. Now I'm going to adhere my vellum to my white mat. Okay, and what I'm going to do off camera is I'm going to put this under block F. I love our block Fs. They are big, but they're great for drying things and making sure this can warp really easily with the glue and the vellum. So I always put mine under a block to dry. Okay, so now if we look at this card, this is what I've done. I did my inking, I did my embossing, and then I glued it to a white mat. And you can see here that my inking wasn't totally covering my vellum. Again, it's not a right or a wrong thing. It's basically what you like. I kind of like the white showing through, actually. And then I just glued it onto my card. Okay? Now, you can do this process another way. Same kind of thing, but a little different. Here, I cut my vellum and I embossed it first. Okay, so I did not ink yet. I embossed it. This is with the leaf fall. This is with one of our wintry embossing folders. I embossed first. Okay. Then I inked. And again, depending on which side you like better, this one, the colors are much deeper. This is where I inked. Much more muted on this side, but the leaves are much whiter. Okay, so same idea. I just switched my embossing and my inking. And so with that, I made this card. Same idea, just a little different look for that embossing folder. I used the wintry embossing folder to make this one. Here is the pine boughs back here. And here is another one. The inking on this is much lighter. I did much lighter application of the ink. Okay. Then there's another way that you can do this. Let me show you this. What I did here was I used my blue blends, 3 different blues. I did my inking just like just like I did before. But then I adhered it to my mat, let it dry, and then I put the whole thing through the embossing folder. Do you see back here? You can see that it was embossed. So this one I inked, glued it to my white mat, and then put the whole thing through the embossing folder. A little more subtle look, if you will. Again, same ideas, just in a different order. And then what I did with that piece, I don't know if you can tell, there's the shimmer. Do you see the shimmer? So I used our Wink of Stella glitter brush, and I literally brushed the glitter all over that piece, okay? And then after I did that, I thought, you know, that really is the star of the show for me. That background, that technique piece is really, I don't want to cover it up with anything else. So I decided to just put a small greeting on there. And I want to show you one other thing you can do with your blends. I wanted to add a couple little rhinestones to this greeting, but I wanted them to follow the color palette. This is Starry Sky. With our clear rhinestones and our pearls, our white pearls, you can use your blends to color your rhinestones, and that's what I did right over here. You see the blue ones. You can do it a couple times depending on how dark you want it. So you can customize your pearls and your rhinestones to any color palette that you're using. And then I'll just lift them off, put them on my card, and I have Starry Sky rhinestones. So let's just review quickly what we did today. We used 91% alcohol with our blends. We used the alcohol to make the ink move. Let that dry. We used embossing folders on the vellum. We glued those pieces to white backgrounds. Our Christmas one, our snowflake one. I hope that today's video does pique some interest in you about vellum and techniques that you can do with vellum. I hope you'll try them. And I hope that I did spark a little bit of interest in a product that isn't the most interesting to look at in a catalog. I'm so glad that you joined me today. If you would like to purchase any of the products that I've used today, you can find them at darlenestamps.stampinup.net. This is my online store. If you don't have a demonstrator, I would love to be your demonstrator. All of my contact information is on the website. I do appreciate thumbs up. They really encourage people that make YouTubes, and a comment would be wonderful. I love when people subscribe and hit the notification bell, and then you'll know the next time I make a video. And if you have a crafty friend that you think would enjoy this lesson, I hope you share it with them. As always, I like to leave you with a thought for the day. And today's words come from motivational speaker Zig Ziglar. Mistakes are proof that you are trying. Bye until next time.